This tutorial will cover the peer review process, including what does it mean when something is peer reviewed, and what is the process like in order to make something peer reviewed. Your instructor may require you to find peer-reviewed sources for your project or paper. Let's find out what that process really means and why it gets that special label. When something is peer-reviewed, it means it goes through a rigorous editing and approval process. First, the author researches and writes an article or book chapter and submits it to publication that they've identified as appropriate to the topic. Scholarly journals can be super specialized, like the Journal of Population Economics, or they can be very broad, like science. Each peer-reviewed journal will have their own peer review process, but for the most part, that submission goes through multiple checkpoints. First, the journal editor or an editorial team will make an initial decision of whether the submission is a fit for the publication. If the editor decides a submission is a fit, they send it on to several peer reviewers, sometimes called referees, who are experts in the field or on the topic, in order to assess the quality of the submission and determine whether it's an important contribution to the field, whether it follows sound research practices and methods, and whether the evidence matches up to the conclusions. This process is intended to filter out faulty claims or bad science. The reviewers make recommendations back to the editor. If revisions are requested, the author must revise and resubmit, going through those multiple checkpoints again. If a submission receives approval, it goes on to be published in a final publication available to journal subscribers, oftentimes libraries, to share new and developing research with others. Rejection and revisions are common, and journals that have a greater audience and influence often have higher rejection rates. Because of these many steps, the peer review process can take several months and sometimes over a year from that initial submission. If you have any questions about the peer review process, you can always ask a librarian